Hariom, Jai Baba, Namaste. So in today's class, I'm going to give a simple one-off kind of lesson, and this comes from the Jaimini Sutras. And this will be a lesson on how to see ugliness or beauty in a chart, as well as speech issues or also dental issues or teeth related issues. And mouth related issues. So, kind of very random. These are three sutras that Jaimini gives in his Upadesha sutras, and they seem kind of random, but they're actually very revealing. And just last night, I spent about 2 hours researching this, particularly the ugliness and beauty placement, and being like, wow, this is kind of profound how this does really work. Um, so I'm going to share these sutras from the Jaimini sutras. They're later on in the sutras, but I just feel like throwing them in here now, even though there's a lot of stuff that comes before them that is more important that I haven't covered yet. And yeah, some of the what I'm going to share here, you might think like, okay, well, this isn't even the most useful thing. This is so superficial, but it's still useful, and it's still a big part of your karma. And so, with that said, let's go into the sutras. Now, um, you should be able to see this PDF here. Okay. Now, this translation, this was done by Ernst Wilhelm, who, like I've said earlier in the course, he's done really the best job of translating the sutras. But he taught this back in like 2008 or something and hasn't really even revisited. So there's been a lot more time. I've done a lot of research on this. There's been a lot more to add to this since he first translated this. So, this is, like I said, part of the section of the Jaimini Sutras that deals with children, predicting if you'll have siblings and predicting if you'll have children just before this. And so here he jumps in, and this is not from the Swamsha. You don't need to know about the Swamsha. You can just use the Lagna for this. The sutra is Labeshad Bhagye Rahau Danshtravan. And what that means is from the seventh Lord, Rahu in the second Rashi, large fanged teeth. Now, isn't that strange? So one will have large fanged teeth if one has Rahu in the second from the seventh Lord. Um, Really random, really weird. I actually have this placement myself. I do have somewhat crooked teeth, but they're pretty normal as you can see, you know? So these three sutras, they're going to happen 1 out of 12 times. So this is not something that you can just like bet all your cards on that this is going to, there's not 1 in 12 people aren't like vampires, you know what I mean, with large fang teeth. So what are we to make of this? Well, in my opinion, after doing research on this, this is a yoga that gives you dental problems. It does give you more problems with teeth. I have pretty good health karma overall in my life, but I've had major dental issues and straight up traumatic, nightmarish experiences with dentists more than once before I went out of my way to find a good one. And even when I go to that good one, I have to make sure I meet with him and not one of his like specialist little people that he passes people off to, because then I'll still have a bad experience. Um, so I have the chart. I when I did research on this last night, I was like, oh my God, everyone I know in the last year who's had like a crazy dental issue has actually had this yoga. Um, so it also makes food and like your food and your what you're eating more important on some level. Um, Whereas, other people like they kind of can just eat whatever they want and don't seem to be as affected. This is a yoga that makes you more affected by it. And my dentist did say that my teeth were very close together. So that could indicate that they are larger than average, but not dramatically so. Um, and so you may, maybe there's even more to this. Like, what is the omen of that? Does it mean you're hungrier? Do you need to eat more? In certain arts of face reading, the teeth represent like inner strength. I think the teeth relate to Mars, obviously. Um, so what really is the omen of that? One thing is teeth are actually an omen of longevity. If you have good, strong, longer teeth, you'll have that is actually an omen of longevity. Um, I do have other placements for longevity in my charts. That could be an indication. That could be true. Of course, I don't know. Um, this is actually something that's just popping in my head right now. Is Saturn, Parashara describes Saturn as being long-toothed, and Saturn is the graha of longevity. And you get long in the tooth when you lived longer and your gums recede more. So there could be some connection here to longevity as well. Um, but anyways, okay, so that's that sutra. Then he says if K2's there, you'll have paralyzed, stiff, or slow speech. So if K2 from the seventh lord, wherever that's at, if K2 is in the second Rashi from there, you will have stiff, slow, or paralyzed speech. The sutra is Ketal Stabdavak. Stabdavak is actually there's another yoga he gives somewhere else for that. But this is a thing that has to do with having like weird, weird speech issues. Even having like a really slow speech, like where it's like slow and you're dragging on, it's hard to follow the person. So that actually, that I have seen that to be the case. I don't have as much experience with that yoga, but I have noticed people, even with K2 in the second house in general, really do have different speech, or it's like there's something about them that they don't want to speak as much. And then this is the most fascinating one. Saturn therein, ugliness. So he says, Mande Kurupaha. Kurupaha means ill-shaped, deformed, or ugly. So yeah, Saturn in the second from the seventh lord makes one ugly. And this, you can also count the Rashi aspects of all these things. Okay, so these are the three sutras that he gives on your appearance and your speech. But these are really revealing. And also notice that he only gives mention of the three cruelest planets that give the most extremes. So really what he's hinting at is that look at all the planets and what they're doing and aspecting, and if they're in the second from the seventh Lord, and they will have an impact on your social karma and how you come off socially. And that's why we're reading all this from the seventh Lord, in my opinion, is because these are all things that drastically affect your social standing or your social karma. If you're ugly or beautiful, if you speak well or if you don't, or if you have like, oh, so maybe large fang teeth is like uh also maybe means having a big mouth. I know I have a big mouth. I can't help but speak up in situations. I think it means maybe having something prominent about your mouth or your jaw, and maybe like you're kind of the opposite. Maybe you talk too much or you're overbearing with your voice, or you scare people because like fangs are kind of like intense or scary, or you're overbearing perhaps, socially. So yeah, actually I think that that might make sense. But you guys should research that because that just popped into my head as I was thinking about it. And then the seventh lord, the seventh house has a lot to do with like your legacy and procreation. Like the saptamsa varga is the varga of children. And again, so this is all like ancestral family karmas. Like these three yogas, you'll actually see them connected, like popping up. If you have one of these, you might see your other family members having it. You'll see these yogas coming up in groups, like in themes with families. And so these are part of your ancestral and genetic karma. And that's why these three yogas are given in this section on family and children, which I haven't covered because a lot of the other stuff in this is like really complicated and hard to do. Like it's very hard to predict children. And so that's not something I've gotten around to teaching yet. Okay. So now let's look at some examples of this. Okay, so before we go into the examples, remember for like beauty, for all this stuff, all the other yogas, all the other stuff in astrology, always keep that in mind still. What's amazing with Jaimini is he gives these simple, concrete techniques that without knowing them, you can't really see all of the person, like we explain with the swamsha and things like this. So, of course, keep in mind all the other stuff about astrology. And then remember that these yogas are 1 in 12. So they're going to come up they're going to come up about 8% of the time just normally in life. So use the Vargas as usual to get more specific. So here's the chart of someone who had some pretty traumatic, horrible dental experiences in his youth. And it scared him away from wanting to go back to the dentist. He has the seventh lord is the sun. The sun is here in Pisces. Now, in this sutra, in these techniques, we count, remember, backwards if it's a female sign. So it's Pisces, it's a female sign. So you count backwards, and Rahu is in the second, with Mercury and Jupiter is the only other planet Rashi aspecting. So he has the Rahu, the Dunstravan, large or fanged teeth. Okay. Um, and he has Mercury there in as well, which is a benefic, which will make it better, make it easier, make him be able to fix his teeth. And then Jupiter there, which is also going to bless it and make it better. Um, Now, if we look at the D7 Varga, I think the D7 and the D60 are also quite helpful for this yoga to get more specific. Now, if we do look at the D7, it's Sun rules the seventh. So the Sun is the second lord again, it's in a female sign. So we count the second from there is Leo. It has only Mars, Mercury, and debilitated Jupiter. So there is still that Mars, that inflammation going on. And then if we look at the D60 just to check, seventh cusp, it's Leo, Sun is in Aries, exalted. Second from there is Taurus. And look again, it has Rahu aspecting the second, and Mars and Saturn aspecting the second. So yeah, he has the Rahu coming up more than once. So yeah, he has the Danstravan, large fang teeth, as we would have said in the old days, but in the modern day, it is teeth problems or dental problems. And this guy had a really traumatic experience with the dentist. Um, and I don't remember all the details of that, but it was truly bad when he told me the story about it. And so I actually went out of my way to give him extra advice on dental stuff because I've also had this issue with just having Rahu and Mars conjunct. You'll have that issue sometimes. And I do just want to share that he did go to a better dentist, and like after I told him, oh, you're in your Jupiter return now, Jupiter's exalted, try to find a new dentist. And I forget what the other advice I gave him was, this was months ago, but he took the advice and he did find a better dentist, and he had a great experience. And he was like, your big brother energy like really helped bless this. Thanks for looking out. Because I was telling him like I've also had this horrible experience, so like please let me help you with this. And I did, and it was success. So that it was a success, So that's just like something kind of cool to share about astrology and how it works on such tiny mundane levels. So you absolutely can use astrology to get better experiences from dentists or doctors or people like this. When I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, I literally arranged like a perfect muhurta for it and had an exalted Mars in the seventh so that I knew that the dentist would be an exalted Mars and be like steady and everything perfect. Um, and yeah, I actually had a spiritual experience when I had my wisdom teeth taken out. It was such a good experience. The day before, I went out to the beach and just like was like, okay, I'm gonna really relax because I know that once you get your wisdom teeth taken out, you have to like lay around for days, everyone told me. And I was really scared of that. Went out, swam in the ocean, and I saw a leatherback turtle for the first time in my life. These turtles are like 7 feet by 5 feet. These are massive things that travel from like India to America. Really cool Saturn omen. Um, and so then the next day when I went, like Saturn was in an auspicious position, and Mars was in an auspicious position. It was all really a great muhurta for dental work being done. And as they laid me up, they numbed me up or whatever. And then one of my favorite songs by Mazzy Star came on the radio. And I was just like, wow, one of my favorite songs of you can't control the music, can't control the radio, it's just grace. And I had a literal like out of body spiritual experience. And then like literally by the time that song was over, the wisdom teeth were done. He had pulled out all four of them in 3 minutes, and it was like no complications at all. And I got to go and leave. And so Muhurta's work is all I'm trying to say is like that was a healing opposite of trauma experience for me. And so ever since I've been able to go to a dentist without having trauma and anxiety come up. And so I was really happy to be able to like share that Sanskara with this client. So fun example. Okay, next example. So this is the chart of really the only person I can think of who had like strange speech. So you guys should really explore that yoga more on your own if you know anyone with speech issues. But this is the only chart I could really think of. So I don't have a lot of data on that, unfortunately. So you guys should double down on researching that before you share that technique. But this is the chart of one person who had a very like slow kind of speech where it was like, well, I guess I might, like kind of just this like dragging on sort of tone. And it's hard to follow, when someone's kind of talking like that. So I looked at this person's chart and it is interesting because the seventh Lord is Jupiter, counting backwards because it's female. You have the sun in there. Um, this person does have sort of a masculine quality as a woman too, to her appearance. But then Ketu and Rahu are aspecting. And this woman did have dental issues. I don't know the whole story, but I do remember she had weird dental issues. But the Ketu aspecting would be responsible for the stiff, or in her case, it was like slow speech. It was more of that slow speech. It kind of just feels like it's hard to follow in a sense. Now for the fun one, ugliness. And we're also going to show beauty because when you see really good things doing this same yoga, you get beauty. So this is the chart of Angelina Jolie. I just picked a few random celebrities who are considered to be really attractive. And yeah, with this one, you get okay, the seventh lord is Saturn. Saturn is in Cancer. We must remember to count backwards. So she has the Sun and Mercury and Ketu. So she has one benefic in its own sign, which would give beauty. Sun kind of does give a little bit of masculine quality. She kind of does have a little bit of a masculine quality, but it's in Rohini, which is great for beauty. And then Ketu there, which would give the stiff, slow speech. I don't know if that's true for her or not. But when we look at it further, we can see, okay, if we pull up the D7, seventh lord is Saturn. Um, Saturn is here, and in Taurus, we count backwards to get to Aries. And then look, just a good Jupiter and a good Mercury are aspecting. So only benefic, auspicious beauty being shown there. And then let's look at the D60, which has the final say, because otherwise, babies born around the same time as her, that same hour or two might have, they're not all going to be beautiful like her. So here in the D60, we see Venus rules the seventh. Oh, and Venus is exalted. Well, just having an exalted Venus in your D60 is definitely good for beauty. Oh, and it's her Atmakaraka. So that's really a huge factor. So again, always factor in these big things. Atmakaraka is Venus itself, and it's exalted in the 12th house, the most important house for the D60. So that shows a lot about her. But the second from there, look, has Jupiter and Mercury. Really beautiful. Benefic energy, and then also K2. So again, maybe something with speech. We might need to study that yoga more. But overall, Angelina Jolie has a lot of benefic, beautiful aspects on the second from her seventh lord. How interesting. Now, this is the chart of Roseanne Barr. Her seventh lord is the sun. So you got that sun down here in Scorpio, counting backwards because it's female. You see Saturn in the second, and Rahu and Ketu and Jupiter. Jupiter gives some beauty, but Saturn is the ugliness. Remember the ugliness yoga. So uh that has, there's some she's not considered to be in the top beautiful realm. I don't like it's hard to speak about this. Okay, so this is happening in the chart of Roseanne. How interesting. Now here's the chart of Brad Pitt. Let's do a male example. Seventh Lord, Mercury. Mercury is here in Cap. All these planets are in Argala too, by the way. Argala, a huge part of Jaimini Sutras. I can't wait to teach on that. But yeah, Mercury, second from there, counting backwards, has Sun. Interesting, because Sun is like the male planet, he's very square, angular features to his face. Then, if we look at the D7, seventh lord is Sun. From there, we get Cancer, nothing going on there. Then, if we look at the D60, seventh lord is Venus. And from Venus, the second there has Moon. Nice. And it's a waxing moon, so it is a benefic planet. And then he does have Rahu aspecting, so maybe he also had some teeth issues, but he does have a big mouth. He does have a big mouth, a big jaw, like we were talking about. So there could be a connection there. So his is it may be the case that for men you want the male planets like Sun or Jupiter or Mars hitting the second, be a little bit more attractive, and then for females you would maybe want Venus or Moon. All right, now here's the chart of Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez. Um, Now Jennifer Lopez considered to be beautiful. Seventh Lord is Saturn. Saturn's in Taurus. Um, we count backwards and we get Aries. So she has Sun in Leo, a good dignity Sun, Mercury, and Moon aspecting. So that makes sense. Waxing benefic moon, feminine planet, curves, Mercury giving like well proportioned form, and then Sun is strong in Leo, so not going to do anything bad. So that makes sense. Looking at the D7, let's pull it up here. Rahu in the seventh kind of speaks to her fame as well in the D7, but let's see. Seventh Lord here, Saturn. Second from there is Cap. Just Mercury and Sun and K2. So K2 again, the stiff speech. Interesting. Um, yeah, the Rahu or K2 in the second does seem to come up a lot in celebrities' charts. And then looking at this, the D60 here, I'll pull it up and you're in the big window. Seventh Lord is Mars. Look at Mars and Gemini. Second from Mars has a Venus there. Boom, there you go. Oh, and waxing benefic moon. Oh, and Mercury, but also Ketu and Rahu. So dental issues for her or some sort of speech issues, but the beauty is strongly shown with Venus. Again, this feminine, both the feminine planets, Venus and Moon aspecting, as well as a benefic Mercury. So hers is showing beauty. Her chart is really showing it. No Saturn aspect, no ugliness. It's interesting. And by the way, the way I researched this was I just went and Googled like top 20 most unattractive celebrities, and they just pulled up a list and then I just looked the first ones that were in the database, super easy. Like Jaimini, you really don't have to work hard to show these techniques working. Like it is really just how nature is flowing and it just is working. It's beauty of real astrology. It's scientifically repeatable. So then here we go, is Whoopi Goldberg. They pulled up Whoopi's name. Let's go, oh, yeah, okay. Well, she's famous and it's not her beauty that got her there. So let's look at that. I wouldn't say she's ugly, like hideous, but she's not like, yeah, she's not known for that. So seventh Lord, Sun. Sun is here in Scorpio. Counting backwards, we get Mars, just the malefic Mars, which is not it's just it can be good for a man, but it's definitely not good for a woman. Even for a man, it might not be good too. It's not in good dignity. But Mars is gonna, you know, take away that soft feminine beauty. And then Jupiter's aspecting, which is good and helpful. And now let's look at the saptamsa. Seventh lord is Jupiter, and the second from there has only Sun. So again, this masculine aspect going on. Nothing feminine going on. But um now let's look at the D60. Once again, Rahu in the seventh for a famous person in the D60. It's funny when you're accidentally learning other new techniques while you're trying to research one. Um, because as you guys know, Rahu has to do with propelling you into like worldly fame. So how perfect is it to have it on the seventh in your D60 for someone who is like extremely famous, like Jennifer Lopez or Whoopi Goldberg? Anyways, back to the technique. Seventh lord is Venus. Venus is here in Cancer. Counting backwards is Gemini, only Saturn aspects. Ugliness. So Mande Kurupaha. So it's interesting because, yeah, in Whoopi's chart, you didn't see any of those feminine planets. You know what I mean? Or any of that beauty that we just saw um, in Jennifer Lopez's chart. Okay, so now here's the chart of a client and friend who is a very uh successful, model and actress and has done, a lot of things that like with beauty, you know what I mean, with her career and is definitely considered one of the more beautiful humans on the planet. And so I thought, all right, well, I'll look at her chart because I don't want to just use famous people. You know what I mean? I want to use more like just various cases. So the seventh lord is Saturn, and we notice Saturn is in Capricorn. So we count backwards and we get Sag, and nothing is there but the moon is Rashi aspecting it, So a waxing benefic moon, a feminine planet. So that's really good for beauty, especially for a woman. And now let's pull up the subconscious. So far, only beauty indicated. Then the seventh lord is Mars. It's in Taurus. You count backwards once again because it's in a female sign. And the only thing aspecting is Mercury and Sun. So that's cool because Sun is in good dignity again. So Sun's not going to harm or do anything or take away from any beauty. And if anything, give more like angles, And then Mercury is the most well proportioned, as Parashara describes. Yeah, like I don't know if I think I've explained that somewhere else, but yeah, like Venus is described as beautiful, but Parashara describes Mercury as well proportioned, which is a very important part of beauty and being attractive as well. And that's definitely the case for her. It's not like weird proportions going on or anything. Um, and then looking at the shastiamsa, now look at that. The moon, just looking at the seventh house in the D60 seems really important, doesn't it? For like fame or beauty, because she's famous, not like really famous, but like, she's well known. And she has a strong moon in its own sign in Cancer in the seventh house of the public and your impact on the public. And that's beauty once again, and she's a model. And so from the seventh Lord Moon, count backwards. Look, Venus in Gemini. Venus is in good dignity here, even as well. And that's Venus. So she has the beauty placement. And then Rahu and Ketu and Mars. So Mars will take away a little bit of that. And then, but it's obviously that was the only real negative factor when you looked at all these factors. And then Rahu is interesting because she also has had really bad dental experiences. Rahu now K2 aspecting, I don't I don't really see that speech, definitely not like slow in speech or anything like that. So I'm still a little confused on that one. But Rahu aspecting giving the Dunstravan, she does not have weird large fang teeth or anything like that once again, but she has had major dental issues. So I feel like this is, when I did this research last night for a couple hours, I was really blown away by this particular strange yoga, the seventh lord, second from there, and the rashi aspects or the planets in there showing beauty and then showing speech issues or showing dental teeth related issues. How strange and how interesting. But yeah, you can see it. And that's the other thing is like what I noticed in my notes is that this kind of is like a family like hereditary thing. So maybe there is when you're looking at this, basically just keep that in mind, that there's like these yogas could be connected to your ancestral karma, which Rahu and Ketu do relate to our ancestral karma in general. So, hope you guys enjoyed that little one-off lesson on Jaimini. And remember, of course, use all your other techniques, and you should be able to, whatever's missing, you should be able to fill in the blanks with these yogas. And I don't know if I'm going to make this video public or not, but if it is public, check out my Patreon if you want to learn more. Please like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Maximize your good karma by liking and subscribing and leaving a comment or something. All right, thanks you guys. Take care. All right.